There's a chill in the air, but we're using this cold snap for a project that will have us dreaming of warmer days ahead. I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. You're probably sitting back saying, hey, it's fall and he's got spring flowering bulbs. Well, let me tell you, there's a little trick that the nurserymen have known for a long time about forcing these beauties into bloom out of season. Now, you need to know that depending on what you want to force, the conditions vary somewhat, but the basic principles are the same. During the fall, I like to plant lots of paper whites and amaryllis. And you see, I stagger my planting well after Christmas and into the new year. And then I can have throughout the winter gorgeous blooming flowers. And you can also do this with many of the spring bloomers like you see here. It's a great prelude to spring. Plus find out how these frost blankets do more than just keep the chill off. And speaking of chill, I've installed a wonderful fireplace at my environmentally friendly house and garden. You've got to hear the story because it's about energy efficiency. But next, we'll visit the largest privately owned home in the United States, the Biltmore, where they're getting ready for the holidays ahead, not just inside, but also in the greenhouse. And a little later, we're going to take a look at a delicious recipe. I have to say that each visit I make to the Biltmore estate in Asheville, North Carolina is a learning experience. In the summer, I enjoy seeing the wide array of perennials and annuals showing off in the walled garden. The espalier trees along the walls inspire me to try to grow some in my own vegetable garden. And the arbors along the library, with its massive trumpet vine, was just one of the larger-than-life elements on this estate. In the fall, the landscape is dotted with beautiful trees that change colors with the season. The hillsides are alive with bucolic scenes of livestock and the house beyond. And in the house itself, a change has begun as it starts to undergo the transformation for the winter holidays ahead. Now, this transformation might appear to be an overnight happening to the hundreds of daily tourists trekking through the mansion. But to the staff, they know getting ready for the holidays takes months of planning. Suzanne Tate, a gardener with the Biltmore, shows us around the greenhouse and tells us a bit about some of the behind-the-scenes gardening that happens this time of year. Tell me about the poinsettias that you grow here.
Well, we grow a small number of poinsettias here, but we grow the largest size that we can. We usually do 10, 12-inch pots, and we also do some hanging baskets.
How many poinsettias do you use on the estate during Christmas?
Well, in the house alone, they have 600, and then in some of the restaurant areas, we put as many as 300 in there at a time.
Now, Christmas at Biltmore is really a 2-month event. It starts in early November and all the way to the end of December. So you're striving for earlier blooming plants, I
That's
see.
right. It's quite a challenge for us, actually. And fortunately, they've come up with newer varieties that are blooming earlier.
I see. So you're using that cultivar of poinsettia in the house because they do begin flowering so early.
That's right. That's usually the first poinsettias that go into the house are the Freedom series.
You know, 2 years ago, you all restored this beautiful conservatory. Could we take a tour?
Oh, I'd love for you to see it.
Great. Now, these are some of the Freedom Series poinsettias you're talking about.
That's right. We're very proud of these. This is Freedom Marble. And we also have Freedom Red that's in the main palm house of the conservatory, and Jingle Bells that you'll see in the hothouse.
I love Jingle Bells. It looks splashed.
It does, and you know, it looks really good in the hot room. I think it goes with those colors that are in there.
Well, even the conservatory gets decorated for Christmas. I love the fresh wreaths on the front door and all the poinsettias throughout.
Well, we do all the work. We grow the poinsettias that belong in the conservatory, and then our crew is the one that makes the wreaths that go on the conservatory too.
Next, more on these fabulous forced bulbs, plus keeping color in the garden longer. And a little later, we'll ignite a fire for energy conservation with a story on the Rumford Firebox. Stay with us.
Follow P. Alan Smith through 4 seasons of Living in the Garden Home, the latest title in his best-selling series of books, on sale now.
You know, I think there really is a magical quality to bulbs, to think that out of this little brown wrapper, a gorgeous flower can emerge. And if you cut into one of these bulbs, you can actually see the tiny little flower bud there. You know, what's great about bulbs is this time of year, I will plant them up into containers this size and then plant them in the garden, cover them with mulch. Then in February, I pull them out and place them near a window and watch the magic occur. Now this is color for later in the season and for indoors, but what about outdoors this time of year? Isn't the autumn display spectacular? It really is one of my favorite times of the year, not only because of all the gorgeous color, but because it's a time of year I actually grow some of my favorite cool season vegetables like broccoli, spinach, and lettuce. I'm crazy about lettuce. A great tool for this has been using frost blankets, and I've used them for years. Recently, Jim Davis with DuPont visited my garden and gave me some insight on other uses for frost blankets. You know, Jim, I love to grow vegetables any time of the year, particularly in the winter. It's a little more challenging, but I just have to show you, just look at this. Can you believe that?
That's fantastic.
Look at that lettuce and my beets, chard, and even peas. To have this time of year, I mean, I'm so excited about it, and it's so easy to put down.
It really is, and you know, this comes in a pack. You take it out, you simply unfold it, you lay it right on top of the plant. It's called a floating cover. There's no need for any framework. Lay it down right on the plant, and then you simply anchor it to the soil. It really is a very simple and straightforward thing to do, and you know, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, you know, and we fold this back up and store it and bring it back out the next season.
Yeah, it's reusable. It'll, you know, these fabrics are typically treated for resistance to sunlight, and they will last season to season.
This fabric really does seem to bring out a lushness to the plants that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, you know, I think a big part of the explanation for that is really based on the permeability of the fabric. And permeability is important not only because it allows rainwater and air exchange, but it's really about a quality of light and light that passes through the fabric. You know, the other benefit you're getting by covering these plants is this blanket is actually capturing heat energy that's being released from the soil. So it's that overall greenhouse effect that you're creating that helps stimulate the plant growth.
For me, I use it in the fall to extend my crop into the winter, as you can see here, but also it's very handy in the spring when I want to try to get a jump on things.
Absolutely, and you know, you talked about frost protection, and it's ideal for that, but you know, this is a product that's really great for growth enhancement. It creates a greenhouse effect, a warming effect that stimulates plant growth. So late in the fall, early in the spring, again, the results speak for themselves.
Okay, you ready to knock off the chill? You're going to enjoy hearing about the fireplaces I'm installing at the Garden Home Retreat. They're energy efficient. That's right, an energy efficient fireplace. Stay with us. Of all the plants I saw this past year and planted in my garden, this one really turned my head. It's called Euphorbia Diamond Frost. It's so delicate and ethereal looking, I was surprised to discover that it can be a real toughie. Initially, I planted it in a mixed container using it as a filler, like baby's breath or lantana. Then I grouped several plants together in mixed borders and found they added a certain effervescence with their frothy blooms. I've had a passion for designing gardens since, well, my mother said since I was a little kid. But seriously, I've enjoyed creating gardens large and small. And when an opportunity arose for me to have a large canvas on which to work, well, the idea for the Garden Home Retreat was born. You see, this property is dedicated to good stewardship of the earth, and I've spent the last few years building an environmentally friendly house and garden. Of course, I love fireplaces, both inside and out. They're so wonderful on those cool autumn days. As I looked into the design of fireplaces, I learned about Count Rumford, who designed in the 19th century a firebox that is so energy efficient. It's seeing a resurgence in popularity again today. Jason Garner with the Antique Brick Company tells us about this Rumford firebox, which is manufactured by a forward-thinking company called Superior Clay.
The Rumford firebox is actually more popular today than any time since the 1850s. The legendary heat efficiency is attractive to those that are building an energy-efficient home and are concerned about air quality. Now what this is a classically designed 48-inch Rumford firebox. You'll see we have a herringbone fire brick but it's built to the exact specifications that you would have seen in the late 1700s. Rumford, in his design, spoke about a couple things, and one are this very shallow box with widely splayed sides. And this is because of the principle of radiant heat. He understood the principle of radiant heat was better to burn a hotter fire with shallow sides to radiate all that heat back in the room instead of losing it up the chimney. There's a couple of other things that make a Rumford work. In his essays, he spoke about a rounded throat that they would actually plaster over in here to make sure that the air went right up the chimney and didn't smoke back into the room. The one thing you want to start with is quality components. And once you get quality components, you need a quality mason to hand build a Rumford fireplace because of the fact that each size of Rumford will take a different size flue to expel those gases and air and heat your room properly without smoking. Rumford fireplaces are really making a comeback, and because of a couple reasons. The extensive restoration of historic homes, but also a renewed popularity in early American and classic architecture. And really they're appropriate in the settings we see in new construction today.
If you've ever put together a large event with a committee, you know that it can sometimes be challenging, if not exhausting. I recently had an opportunity to interact with Carolyn Newbern, who did a lot of organization for the garden tours during the 2007 International Master Gardener event. Carolyn even put her own garden on tour, and we had an opportunity to visit with her about what makes her garden so unique.
Our house is arts and crafts, or the period of the house is with the arts and crafts period of the 1920s, when the emphasis was on handmade and native materials and native plants, both inside and outside the houses. I grew up around gardeners. My mother and grandmother were both big gardeners and enjoyed gardening very much, working mainly with flowers. When we moved into this house, there was a minimal amount of plant stock. The historic house did have mortared walls and sidewalks. A lot of the architecture, the hardscape, was in place, and we worked with that. And over 20 years, I have added a little bit here, a little bit there. Went through the Master Gardener program in 1994 and found out that there was a lot about gardening that I had not learned from my mother and grandmother. And since our house is a 1926 house, I've tried to find plants that were appropriate to the period or even earlier and work them into the existing landscape. Things have changed. We had, when we first moved here, there was a child swimming pool, a long, narrow swimming pool, which we first had as a fish pond. It had a number of problems, and it has been changed several times, and now we have a raised bed, a bog garden with carnivorous plants, and a small fish pond, one that's very easy to take care of. Something that has also become a passion of mine as I have gardened a little bit more is just having more fun with the garden and finding things that amuse my husband and me and our family. My husband is a musician, plays the tuba, so another water feature that we added has a tuba in the fountain. But these things are fun, and I think if you don't have fun with gardening, you shouldn't be doing it. So a lot of what I do is fun.
Have I got a delicious recipe for you right after this. You know, after all this hard work, I need a simple yet delicious treat for dinner. Kinsey Smedley of the Savory Pantry has just what I need.
Using summertime's best ingredients from the garden, we're going to be making a caprese salad today, in addition to what will be taken from your pantry that'll be premiums. We're going to start with tomatoes. The tomatoes definitely want to be something that is vine ripened and sweet. You want them firm. You don't want ones that have been refrigerated. You're going to slice your tomatoes about 1/4 of an inch thick. So you're going to get big old good steak-sized pieces of tomatoes. Choose tomatoes that are all about the same size, and that'll help when your presentation happens at the end. All right, in addition to those tomatoes, then we're going to be using fresh Italian mozzarella cheese made with buffalo milk. And so you're just going to take this. This is a really nice cheese slicer, which allows you to cut that mozzarella to about 1/4 of an inch. This will begin the presentation. Your tomatoes, showing each of those little pieces of mozzarella. And then your tomatoes. Making it very simple. It looks really pretty on a white dish. And then you're going to take some fresh young basil straight from the garden. I like to take whole pieces and just wedge them in between the tomatoes and the mozzarella. You want something fresh. Because this salad is so simple, premium ingredients are going to be essential. So you really want to get those good red tomatoes. You really want to get that fresh mozzarella. And olive oil is where we're going to begin here. Our olive oil we chose today is olio verde. It is from Sicily, and caprese is a Sicilian dish. And we're going to take the olio verde and we're just going to drizzle it over it. Olive oil is very similar to the tasting of wine. People have a different preference. And the finishing touch for our caprese salad today will be fleur de sel. This is a salt that's done from the Sea of Brittany. Truly an artisan product. It is harvested about once a year. That's going to bring out your flavors for your caprese salad, which will be perfect for your summer gardening, entertaining, or just an easy salad for you to enjoy with your fresh tomatoes.
Seeing these gorgeous tulips reminds me of how inspiring spring flowering bulbs are, including daffodils. You know, every year I order daffodils in bulk, and we plant them on Daffodil Hill out at the Garden Home Retreat. Last year, I invited a group of students from a local high school to come out and help with the planting as a part of their lesson plan. And then in the spring, they got to come out and pick daffodils and sell them as a fundraiser. It's a win-win in my book. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. We sure have covered a lot of territory. We saw everything from gorgeous fall foliage to frost blankets, Rumford fireboxes, the grandeur of Biltmore, and even more. All of this is on my website, pallensmith.com, if you want to check in. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.